The Stochastic Fiction Game. This is a timed writing game. Today's game will be 2 hours long. I'm going to start the timer now. I'm going to go ahead and create the Stochastic Fiction outline. This outline is randomly generated to be able to make it stochastic. And we'll output this outline here. We'll be able to see this new file in our writing repository. We're going to open up this Stochastic Fiction outline story element file. So this file contains the story elements for today's Stochastic Fiction game. For today's Stochastic Fiction game story elements, to have me create a story within 2 hours, read it at the end, we have these story elements. Setting time past, setting main location space, conflict person versus society, quantity of primary characters many, point of view third, tense past tense, genre utopian, format flash fiction. Well, these story elements for today's Stochastic Fiction game present a pretty interesting potential for a story. The only things coming to mind right now, if we have our main location, is space. It's in the past. Person versus society, the people who don't want to be part of it because it can suck sometimes. It's an idea. Primary characters, mini. Maybe we're in a space station. Tense, past tense. I just got to remember to put in past tense. Genre, utopian. Format, flash fiction. Okay, I can do those things. I can write this story. And we'll rate it at the end too after it's read aloud. But right now in this story element block, we've got nothing. If you have contributing thought out there, we'll just sink along. We'll see where the story goes. I need to have something that's in the past, in space, person versus society. Utopia. Yeah, a utopian story in space during the past. Yeah. The future would have been easier if I could have done that. Maybe it is the past. What if I cheated and said it was a time traveler? I guess a utopia could happen on a space station, right? It's kind of a self-contained system. You got the freedom to do what you want. But, your actions will probably have a heavy impact on your survival. So you have to be a little more cautious. I don't know if that's necessarily utopian, unless you like solitude. Oh, man, this just sucks. Person versus society, space, and in the past, and utopian. Like, it'd be easier if it was at least the present and the future. The future would be easier, because then you could lie, pretend that utopia is going to happen. Now I'm reloading all the utopian books I've read over the past years because I'm a little bit obsessed with this concept of what people consider to be utopia. I can't remember all their names, but they've all given a good impression that, well, everybody's utopia, someone else's dystopia. And even someone's dystopia could be someone's utopia. It all depends upon the individual and their own desire to have and witness and experience pain and suffering. Mine is little, so there's got to be a little less pain and suffering. It's got to be in the past for this space adventure. Time travel comes to mind. I could work around my constraint of it being in the past. If this person comes from the future and goes into the past and is like concerned. What's the conflict, though? They want to save the world and they realize they can't. And then that'd just be so complicated. Then how are you going to surface the living in the past with a bunch of people and a bunch of conversations and hijinks in a flash fiction story that's about 800 words or less? Third past tense utopian flash fiction. Man, I don't know. I'm a little bit stumped. This would be a secret mission, maybe? A utopian. Maybe it's like the hidden... Maybe it's the space station. I mean, it's like the only utopian type thing that existed. Does it exist really anymore in the same capacity? Maybe. But I feel like at least up there, there's a single society. Most of the scientists, well, they're attached to politics. I think them being in space and being astronauts and scientists probably outprocess the desire to not like an individual because they're from a different country on an international space station. God, this is going to be difficult, especially the utopia part. Writing about utopia is hard. Writing utopia is hard. Not as opposed to dystopia, where you just take a big bad thing and make it the overwhelming thing that controls everything, and your objective is to try to overthrow it. It might work. This has to be the past, so let's put it in the International Space Station. I've got a lot of time. What time do I got? Let me see if I can see some digits. An hour and 53 minutes. So they're going to be International Space Station. The Utopian Society will be the space station itself. What's the tension, though? Something's going to disrupt Utopia. Can make it a real-world event where we could just say one country invades yet another country. And they're two scientists. Thoughts that are coming to mind right now, honestly, let's think of utopia and space conflicting is 2000, the movie, the book. I conflate the book and books much with the movies. But 2010, if I'm not mistaken, it was sort of shot and written during the space chase in the Cold War against the Russians. And I think they had Russian and American based astronauts going to see something. I can't remember the spot. Anyway, they arrive in space to see this monolith in space that becomes part of a planet. The countries are warring with each other. They have to separate ships, but then they come back together because they're scientists and they have a mission. The problem with this being the past, it is fiction, so I don't have to make it real. I'd really love to do some research, but to better fictionalize this, but there is an amount of time. I don't know a whole lot about the International Space Station to sit here and pretend that I can write a very intricate story involving aspects about it that would make it intriguing or feel like that it's real. I don't have that nonfiction knowledge, so it's hard for me to lie about it. It just doesn't seem... Editing it may help it smell like... It might. Utopia. Fuck. Past and in space. I'm starting something, but I don't think it just doesn't work out. Already I can see the complications. I'm stealing from a different storyline. See if I can fit into mine about the separation between two. And I guess it could be like we can at some point there were Russian and Americans in a space station. Again, I'm not a history buff, and I wouldn't be able to use the proper terms quickly enough when this time to do good. Let's see if we can do bad. Tried to make this about a Cold War thing. So back in the 80s, 90s, the first space station. I think that's plummeted to Earth already. Let's do some real quick research just so I can know what the first space station. I'm going to do a search and return engine. I'm going to go ahead and I'll read aloud the things that it's returned so we at least keep that context within this transcript and within this writing session. The first international space station. The first truly international space station was the International Space Station, while the Soviets launched the first space station in 1971. The International Space Station was launched in 1998. The ISS is a multinational project living in the United States. Okay, so it's the past. First components were launched in 1998. So you'll say the ISS. And I guess this one's still orbiting Earth. Does it have a life expectancy of this thing? Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're going to say yes. What's the perspective? It's supposed to be in the past. I think, yeah, so this is going to be the International Space Station where they have a utopia because, you know, it's a little more immediate, your life. All right, so enough about reading this Wikipedia article on the International Space Station. There's at least enough there to convince me that I could think of this being more international, utopia setting. Excuse me. Third person point of view. We could start with the tragedy in the setting, in the first paragraph, and set up the conflict and the need for the crew to work together despite let's see what's so there's a Russian orbital segment and there's the US orbital segment. So that will be sort of the boundaries. There's when was Crimea invaded? So let's could say 2014. You can have like a mini. But that didn't happen. The world just rolled over when Crimea was invaded. Yeah, when it was annexed. So March 2014. If we could put this around 2014, we can make believe that there's some Russian scientists inside of the space station with some scientists around the world. The genre is utopian. God, this does not feel like utopia. This feels like the dystopia we all live in and love to know. Man, how fiction can I make this? Like, I'm not. The only way that I could see this happening is I did some like steampunk retro thing and just totally changed reality. It is flash fiction. But the more, anyway, the better. It's hard. Yeah, I'm not good at retrofitting reality and making changes, like those stories where instead of the U.S. winning the space race, the Russians win the space race, and it changes the trajectory of history, and everything's different. And with the flash fiction story, I don't have a lot of words to sort of build up that fake reality. I have 800 words. So if I can tap into real reality, slightly twist it, and rewrite it into something that's more familiar, or at least can pull from collective memory and has a common reality, and just alter it. So I think I will go with International Space Station. When Crimea was invaded, but then I'm gonna have to think of like Russian cosmonaut names and blah blah blah. Boy, there could be worse things in life. Not having the mental capacity to think of those things, that would be the worst thing in life. Of course, you wouldn't really know, would you? You just think you're okay, when really you're a fucking idiot. Yes, that's the benefit of stupidity. You don't know any better. Not to say I'm not stupid. I'm stupid about many things in life. Okay, the order. Do they order to separate? It was gonna have it like they invaded. I'm not good at these, so this is gonna be a poorly written story. Maybe today we'll see it. Like now, I got to think of like, like to think of some classic television spoken Russian speaking English and all those mannerisms that will seem insulting when I do it because I suck at that. I mean, I'm okay if I got like time to think about it, read it over, look at some examples so I'm not insulting, at least get, how people who aren't American, United States of American English speakers speak English. If you don't do it right, it sounds really stupid. And I've done it right maybe once. I've done it wrong a lot of times. Okay, let's write this out. It's cosmonaut, right? Cosmonaut, not, connaut, cosmonaut. Just make sure I get that spelling right. A Russian astronaut is known as a cosmonaut. Boom. Let's identify this character right away. We'll call him a cosmonaut. Let's just use last names for right now. I mean, this is the Russian and U.S. in 2014. Let's do this. Let's do another search and return on women on the space station during 2014. Okay, there were 2 women on board the International Space Station during the long missions. Elena Sorvova, a Russian cosmonaut, and Samantha Cristoforetti, a European Space Agency astronaut. Awesome. So who would this, like, as someone from the United States of America, my knowledge and my ego lies in the Americans. I almost see the International Space Station is like more United States of American than anything else because I'm biased. It's what I think of when I wake up in the morning and what I go to bed to because it's the ground below my feet. It's hard not to. So let's stretch ourselves outside. Do I really want to fictionalize about 2 characters that are not only that are of different born and raised in different places? Like one's hard enough. Like I can go with like the Russian cosmonaut and maybe I'll change their last name to give a shout out. But then I'm putting like words in their mouth and that ain't nice. Even if they were an asshole, I don't want to sit here and act like this is them because it's not. This is a flash fiction story that I'll write now, I'll read, and I'll be done with. Likely. Cosmonaut Sarkova. What's a Russian? Yeah, let's see. Russian. I just don't want to make shit up when I don't have to. I can get a good understanding of like. Let's go with let's not go with that one. Wow, man, there's so many different yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't know. There's just lots. I'm looking at lots of different name. Let's just go with this one. Let's go with Ivanov. Ivanov, son of Ivan. Ivanov. Yeah. What are they going to look at? What's the trigger? What's the scene? There's only going to be one scene. What's going to happen? Like, this is silly. That's going to be a bunch of talking. Oh boy. Oh boy. We're in Utopia though. How's this is already feeling like a total failure. It was the future. Let's have a time traveler. If you have time traveling, when it happens doesn't matter. Looked out the window. At the sun illuminating. Is there like a surname? Ooh, maybe I'll make it obvious. They have a descent of. Let's do that. Let's make it this way. This is going to be terrible, probably. Why will it be terrible? Because this is way too much. I mean, I feel like it's not going to be rated high just because I'm not going to be able to do the fiction that well. Enco is so Enco here. Rudenco. Enco. Hold on. Enco often indicates a meaning of son of. I'm going to do Ivanko. That's interesting. The difference between the surnames. Ooh, you can have one of those like witty conversations about some very specific thing in history and something you totally don't know about. Like, I know a little bit about Ukraine and Russian history only through the media that I absorbed, things that I've read. It's still not all that much, to be honest. It must be compared to a lot of the other things that I consume data-wise. So I have at least enough information to make it seem like I don't know something and show people that I don't know it. But then I can use a trick that I remember is that if you like have like a very specific thing that shows like the nuances between something like a name and how it is, that you can make it seem like you know what you're talking about. You know, this little small minutia of, I think I got it. That small minutia is how the name Ivan is spelled. They're still a cosmonaut, and we want Enco. So Ivan Enco. As opposed to, well, let's undo it. What was the name of what was that one right there? Ivanov. And that could be subtle way of I won't even drop it. So if I want Ivanenko, according to the search and return engine, Enko often indicates a patronymic, I can't even say that this afternoon, or ever probably. Often indicates patronymic, meaning son of. Example, Ivanenko means son of Ivan. And so Ivanov was of to son of Ivan. But surnames comes from a different region. So in this case, they're originally from, I guess, if this search and return is accurate, which again, time constraints, I got an hour and 33 minutes left. The Ukrainian surnames often end in Enko, Chuk, Ski. We'll use this subtle difference to have the entire conversation about Utopia. And do they know? Was it something they talked about a lot? Not really. Like, I guess if you're on a space station, I wouldn't know. First of all, I've never been and lived in a space station, so this is totally fiction. Taking from the nonfiction accounts, though, from what I've heard, there's usually very little time. And I'm sure there's downtime, and I'm sure there's chitter-chatter between doing things, but because you're in space, you do have a set plan of things you need to get done because you're not in space long, and it's expensive, and it's stressing on the body. I remember hearing some interviews about how if they wanted any personal time, at least this particular astronaut who did a lot of experiments, personal experiments just for fun, would have to like time it around everything else. So they have a plan. Why am I getting at that plan? I want to be able to at least wonder if they would know the difference in the surname stuff at that point in time. They wouldn't, I'll say. There's a whole long justification just to have this opening dialogue be about the cosmonaut's last name told to an American about that's triggered by the invasion of Crimea in 2014. So that would be the past. I got to make sure it's past tense, too. Look through the window. You're going to look out a window. You're going to look through a window. At the sun illuminating our homeland. Illuminating the earth. What continent? Man. Say, I don't know. It seems boring. Sorry for the deep breaths and feigned yawns, but hey, life wakes up the body in different ways. Sometimes with its own resources. Sometimes by some external stimulus. I'm trying to get stimulated right now, but I'm really getting overwhelmed with a lot of information of how to even write a sentence one so I can have a story. That's Utopian, in space, during the past, and it's person versus society. Oof. God, I don't know. It's flash fiction. So I can't get to, So cosmonaut Vanko? That's how I'm assuming. I'm not pretending that I can say any American English names. United States of American English names well, much less ones that are throughout the world. Cosmonaut Ivanko looked through the window of the International Space Station at the sun illuminating Europe. The European continent. Oh, how do you spell European? European? Yeah, let's go with that. And it is a continent, right? I'm going to have to search and return engine, European continent. Ah, man, I spelled that wrong. I don't know. Is it uppercase, lowercase? I'm just going to go with lowercase. European continent. We'll go with that. The continent of Europe. European continent. Astronaut. Okay. Boy, the hard part. Will have be some dude. Some American. It's got to be uniquely, justifiably. I have no idea. Smith. Boy. Boom. Yeah, let's go with Smith. Astronaut Smith. Maybe this is where how would I even Ukrainian. Yeah, this is where I get cringy within my own self when I start writing stuff like this because I don't know, I don't do it often enough. And if it's not done right, it just sounds really stupid. It's easier to make up accents and not feel as foolish for aliens or people in the future whose fiction is all up to you versus creating a fiction that involves some sort of collective and objective belief that it's real. Still a belief, probably. They want to change it to Ivan. They wanted. All right, so what's the conflict? Like, seriously. Like, I got a really cool opening. Oh, it's not really cool. It's okay. I won't brag about it. I may lift this idea for a different story and make up how the names are different in fantasy or science fiction land or even a different dimension land where the alternate reality will make this utopia be better with more words. But in this case, it just, what's the conflict? I don't even like the conflicts down on Earth. The conflicts between the name, maybe? person versus society. And, that fit there. It's a past tense, we've hit that. But the utopia, they're in a space station. I mean, fudge. This just seems silly. I'm not going to do like, how do you say kind of trope. This person knows how to speak English and say cosmonaut and not say, how do you say cosmonaut? A little cliche, I think it is, in writing speeches of a person in a language that you probably don't fully know. You can only go off of the sort of instances of media where you've seen a bunch of people of that language speak the language you're familiar with, and maybe you can adapt some of the patterns to make it sound like it's not insulting, but at the same time fitting for the scene and shows the difference. In this case, this person's she's an astronaut. Cosmonaut, rather. I'm not going to have, like I originally had the conflict was what they were separate. There's another Russian on board. There's going to be an emergency. I don't know. Like, this is starting to feel like a much larger flash novel. No. Yeah, it is starting to feel more, and that's something I just don't want to go down. I need a conflict. What the hell is the conflict? Sure, there's a conflict going down on Earth, and it's just some like boring, witty dialogue, and you're in Utopian, you can't do shit about it. That's not a story. Well, it's not this story. That could be a story. It just can't fit these parameters for this story right here. So Utopian. Person versus society. Maybe the person's called Ivan. Oh God, don't do that. It just feels, no, man. Let's just do it, and let's see if I can make it work. Because I got an hour and 21 minutes. This is going to be a flash fiction story, but I need a conflict. It's going to be an alarm, something invading. Let's just do that. And what's a first name? We'll say it's another male Russian. I'm not going to look up. There seem to be a lot of people that could go on that space station. So Russian first name. And what's the difference in Ukrainian? What about Ivan? That's too easy. Not too easy. I take that back. I don't know. This is a little bit stretched. Um, do I really want to? Yeah, let's just do it. Just get it done. The worst thing that's going to happen, it's going to be a terrible story. It's going to be a terrible story, but let's not create a destiny by saying that. Just prove it at least. um, is that how I would spell cosmonaut? Astronaut, cosmonaut. I don't, yeah. We got to have the of, right? Like, I might as well continue at least the one thing I'm not going to. Let's go Abramov. Huh. She floats. How did I even get to this? Now I'm lost. Like like I was what? Um, I had some mental jump. I wrote these words and I think they're good, but what the hell was I trying to get to? I'm lost. They wanted to change it to Ivanov when I trained to be a cosmonaut. Ooh, I could do it like it's a epistolary thing. Like the recording of the log of the trip. Everything's getting recorded. No, I don't know. That's dystopia to me. I don't know how this is utopia right now. I guess because they can talk about it and it's small enough and they're detached in their own little world. Now I need some sort of conflict, some. do that. Do I want to go there? Not really. But, you know, Crimea or Crimean? Crimean Peninsula. So let's say Crimea. When they say and talk to each other, they'll use first names. The narrator will use their sort of title, surname. Nods in a. I'd imagine for the gravity. I guess you wouldn't really move. Yeah, nodding the head. I guess if you're stuck in space, you better be tethered to something. Could that be the entire conflict? Just having a bunch of dialogue seems cheap, especially for a flash fiction story. But, you know, they've been done before that way, I'm sure. I may have even written one or two with more dialogue than action or description of scene, tension, things like that. So that's where I suppose I'm going to try to see if I can write something that's halfway not too stupid. Is that the tension? And this is Utopia. It is kind of utopian, though. Like, I'm just going to throw out tropes, at least in our American culture. Mine. I can't say ours. But technically, yeah, it's generic enough that you can model it pretty accurately for each state and for the United States. I'd probably say, at least in the generation I grew up, the KGB was like the nemesis, the secret spy on everything. Now it's what, the FSB, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's the way it is in the United States of Eden. But that's all fiction, satirical fiction. So have you talked? Wasn't his dad? Maybe they catch on to a joke real quick here. Is that right? Man, I can't spell astronaut. Oh, shoot. Yawns and breaths. Unable to spell words and write them, type them out correctly. Hour and 7 minutes left. I think I've got at least something. It's something. Unlike a cosmonaut and an astronaut, Smith. Let's get the nodding out. Okay, so at least I have some set up right now. Maybe. Have you talked with Ivan about Crimea? Cosmonaut Ivanko looked through the window of the International Space Station, the sun illuminating the European continent. Astronaut Smith said Ivanko is Ukraine. Let's go. Just how the American would say it. I think that's right? So horrible with full self the doubt. Okay, Ukrainian. Yeah, I'm just maybe I could even further narrow down the story length, the story, because I'm full of doubt right now on it. Um, it's about whether they wake up her fellow cosmonaut, who would be more, I guess, according to the names I've read on Wikipedia, surnames. Some returned by the search and return engine I use. This particular day is Google, so that's where that data is coming from. And sort of a little bit cross reference between the two. And this seems to be, with all my pop culture growing up in the 80s and 90s, and my God, the KGB, who would it be? Could be that person in your classroom. That was the thoughts then. They stuck around till now. So at least seem like reasonable bullshit to United States of American humans that grew up in that time frame. At least that's my main audience, I suppose. Maybe it'll be attracted to other people or attractive to other people. I don't think it'll get agency to be able to be actually attracted to something. And never be like, I have a mass to do the same. I've talked with Ivan, was an SKB, his mother's KGB, he's sleeping. I feel like this would be some small conversation happening in a much larger Tom Clancy novel where whatever sexy, strong, consummate intellectual protagonist, whose I think name was Ryan. I don't know, I'm mixing up all of the different versions of the same character, having like one of those conversations that's in some militaristic scene where they have this mix of technology and dark history, all while observing the change before them. Whether it's revealing that a sub can go supersonic or the intricacies of the plot to destroy Washington with some nerve agent. In this case, it's got to be in Utopia. I don't think Tom Clancy wouldn't survive in Utopia. Maybe it would. There are those people out there that really love and would want to live a Tom Clancy novel, but then would realize they're not fiction. They're the person. The novels are. He's sleeping, which is good. He's groggy when he doesn't. They'd have to be fiction. And a real person, it's hard for them to become fiction. I don't know. This just seems stupid. Like someone should write something like this, but not me. I'm not. This just feels uncomfortable, I'll be honest. Like I don't know what I'm writing about, and I really don't. Not at this point. It's to fulfill this. It's the best way that I can capture these elements of past, space, person versus society, third person point of view, past tense. The utopian part's really evading me. polling, we'll say cause not where are we with the surnames? Abramov. The fools. How do you spell paradise? Just had a song pop into my head where paradise was almost paradise. Why was I thinking that? Because I've heard that song a lot, that's why. Paradise is with an S, not a C. Unless maybe you're in Vegas and be like paradise. Oh man, I should just become a billionaire so I can make a casino called Paradise. I'm sure someone has. I hope. I really do hope someone has already had used that name. Let's go. Yeah, that'd be fun. Anyway, we're not talking about a casino here. A paradise. The Earthlings. And again. And it's just like, then you start telling yourself, maybe just make this really short flash fiction story. Because if I have less words, then it'll be less bad. So my thought right now, even with 53 minutes left, is I'm gonna end this somehow. But what's even the story about? I got a utopian here somehow. So I gotta have some like really witty dialogue that I chuckle and I laugh because this is a serious matter and I'm just not capable of doing it. Laugh in the face of disaster. A lot of times I do. Because I put myself here. That's one thing too. It's not like I couldn't just get up and walk away and then I'd still be alive in a pretty reasonably sane environment. And everything's dynamic and chaotic, but it certainly has a lot more potential for greater entropy than places where it changes all the time. That said, let's finish this thing. Where are the gods? How is that going to happen? The conflict is person versus society. Am I going to have to spend like the next 30 minutes talking out loud about why it's going to end this way just to try to justify a short and shitty story? Maybe. Um, where's the conflict? Where's the story? Where's the utopia? I mean, I'm trying to stage the International Space Station as utopia. Shouldn't they be working? I mean, I just went over some long dialogue about how, from the limited amount of information I know, how the International Space Station functions, that there's just the reality of when you're there, you kind of have to use all the time to do the job of being an astronaut. You really don't have a lot of luxury of just dilly-dallying around because it's expensive, it's dangerous, reasonably. Time is money. So, time is life, and you don't got so much of both. Well, you got all the unlimited amount of money you do because it's just a concept we make. But life right now, while it may be a concept we make to have exist, we don't have the way to measure that reality, if that is the case. So, to us, it's finite. Right now. The Earthlings are fighting over the names and land again. I don't know where this is going. They're going to have to some kumbaya moment. They got to work together. I need to get to work. Sleep. I need to work. I could do like a showing. Maybe that's what it needs. Maybe the utopia is not necessarily. Let's start off with two things. Let's start off with a little bit about the tension. And I gotta set up the doing the. All right, so let's set up more conflict. Boom, they are waking up and work together. This will be the utopian part. Is where it'll show that they got to work together for the energy. So I'm not going to get into the details. I don't want to look up solar panel. I just kind of want to write this and be done. It's the benefit of knowing that the words will end once the game does, at least for me. These words, that is, that will be. Is she sleeping, which is good. He's, her name's in land again. Her energy. Let's get it down to just the last name. I think that's not how I want to spell Ivan and Co. And pull. I don't even. I'm assuming. I'm making a lot of assumptions here, and I'm just not going to get into specifics because I really have not studied the International Space Station enough at all, really. Other than a few Wikipedia images I've seen, I actually have a Lego set of it. I think someplace, still in the box. Tether and crawl along their home to the sun panel away. like dancing. They move and talk and sing. They move the panel. We place the panel together. Give energy to their home. I don't know. I feel like I want to end it right there. Does it feel like an ending? Not really. Maybe. Maybe I should read it aloud. Be judgmental afterwards. Continue to be judgmental even during. Just judge it. What would this thing be called? Somewhat witty. Boom, throw down the 80s KGB, serious. And we'll have the cosmonauts because there are no astronauts. That way I can at least differentiate between, the Russians and the Americans with heavily influenced 80s experience, 90s experience of pop culture and, sort of the limited amount of information you get. And every Russian's a KGB agent, potentially. Yeah, welcome to the 80s. Now they'd just be the FSB. I believe it's the FSB. The cosmonauts pull and strap on spacesuits, fitting helmets and sun shields. Into the space they tether and crawl along their home to the sun panel array. Like a ballet, they move and talk and sing to remove the panel or place the panel together to give energy to their home and their space. I threw in without war. I don't know. Now I'm just like throwing out. It feels cheap, but how else am I going to end this thing? I think you give it enough name dropping. But, then they're going to say, well, war created the space program because the United States got the best Nazis. I think Werner von Braun to be able to build the best rocket and get it into space many times. And so did, I think, Russia got some good Nazis too, to be able to put forth their space and rocket creation. in space exploration. So you could say that space without war is technically not true. War does always help propel technology because it gives, at least used to be the justification for needing to shoot a rocket more than no one cared what was in space. They definitely wanted to kill somebody here on Earth, and they wanted to do it from a great distance, and there's your rocket. So space won, a space created no. Let's just leave it like that. That way I don't have to have any sort of I won't think of that thought I just said out loud and whatever jumbled mess it was every single time I'd read A Space Without War. I'm not going to pretend that military industrial complex did not propel the United States' space exploration and desire for it. To be able to get those satellites into space. I mean, for God's sakes, the Star Wars program, which is a big dump of money and probably really didn't advance things as much as people think because it was just a big waste of money. The few sort of really innovative programs that were truly explorational. Anyway, I think I'm done. I got to read between the lines and maybe write some more words in your head to be able to complete this story. There's only to set it up for success. Let's just talk great things about it. It's out of my realm. Like, it's heartfelt, but it's not something that these types of... Like, it'd been easier if it was the future, because then I could have sort of had at least a better lie to tell. And I need to know way too much more than I know now. And experience would help too. But just more research on names, places, things can enhance it. I think I'm done with it. I'm going to see how it is right now. And now we're going to rate it. I just got to at least have some of these story elements. I want them all, of course. The Utopian one, we'll see. So for today's Stochastic Fiction game, this is the story that I hope has these story elements. Setting time past, setting main location, space. Conflict, person versus society. Quantity of primary characters, many. Point of view, third. Tense, past tense. Genre, utopian. Format, flash fiction. For today's Stochastic Fiction game story called Of Space. Of Space. Have you talked with Ivan about Crimea? Cosmonaut Ivanenko looked through the window of the International Space Station at the sun illuminating the European continent. We are replacing a solar panel in a few minutes. Astronaut Smith said, Ivanenko is Ukrainian. They wanted to change it to Ivanov when I trained to be a cosmonaut. Unlike our cosmonaut, Ivan Abramov. Astronaut Smith smiles. Is that why you call his kids Ivanovs? Of Ivan, right? Cosmonaut Ivanenko holds onto the wall and looks at the earth. She smiles yes. Have you talked with Ivan? Wasn't his dad KGB? His mother was KGB. Cosmonaut Abramov pulls along the wall through the portal onto the bridge between the lab and the generator. The Earthlings are fighting over energy and land again. He lays a hand on Ivanenko's shoulder. The solar panel can wait. We need energy to live. The cosmonauts pull and strap on spacesuits, fit helmets, and sun shields. Into the space they tether and crawl along their home to a sun panel array. Like a ballet, they move and talk and sync to remove the panel and replace the panel together to give energy to their home and their space. That was today's Stochastic fiction game story called Of Space. I ended up not hating that as much. I think I I think I wrote most of the story elements. I'll give it a 2. And I say that in jest only because I just don't think I have the competency today and the knowledge or experience really to go much further than this. This would be it. I feel like at least I'm skipping across the surface. And yeah, I don't know. I'll go 2. It could be better, but it'd have to be written by somebody else. Let's add it first to the Git repository. Then let's commit it. Well, that sucks. Light just fell. It's a little shocking, I'll be honest. But that noise is, well, that was a little stochastic maybe. No, it wasn't. That's it. I'm done. There's 28 minutes left. I'm going to go use that time to see what caused that loud noise. I'm pretty sure I know. Maybe I'll write a story about it. I'll likely journal about it. And I suppose have this transcript that's being taken right now, my voice while I write. That's called life. I'm going to live it.